Pew, 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 pew. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Tommy Boy and Abby from Vera Nation and Pedrinho in the back office. What's going on, Pedro? Good morning.
What's good, man?
How's it going? Are
All great,
you
all good.
good? Are you live on YouTube? You got the YouTube open?
No, let me
Okay.
get there.
So today we're going live on YouTube and on Facebook on my personal profile. And obviously, this is going to be audible on the podcast platform as well. Today, I wanted to just. Today is a very special. Actually, like this is the great thing about running your own podcast is that you can bring people in that you love, that you like working with, um, and that you want to support. You know, and that's why I love being here today with you, Pedrito. I'm not
Hey,
going to talk
brother.
about you now, Abby. What an asshole!
Some serious bromance going on.
I know, right? Get out of the picture, Abby. Just kidding.
This
My
guy.
my my dear friend Abby Duran. Is it Duran or Duran?
Duran, like Duran,
Duran.
but like
Duran.
Spanish obviously is Duran, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yes, yeah,
yeah. I
and
say that because yeah. Go
yeah,
on.
that's hard because that's actually hard for a lot of English speaking people because they'll think it's Durham, and there's no pork in my name, so,
Durham.
so yes.
Like, what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah,
hmm
Duran.
Yes,
See,
Duran. From Vera Nation. You've been you the business that you're running is business and storytelling, content and copywriting services. Am I saying that right?
yeah, it's a mixture of things. So it's not just obviously the blog that it started off in the humble music blog that you knew. But it's
Yeah.
also all this other writing services. I've done CV work, editing. I have a business writer who helps me with other things, and obviously business bio. I've done press release statements. I just wrapped one up for a client here. So it's just kind of a interwebbing thing of writing, then content work, copywriting, you name it. So it's more of an array of things. And then, but obviously the storytelling is where it kind of comes in together.
Would you say copywriting is that the let's say the umbrella of everything that falls under?
No, writing in general actually is what. So like copywriting is more on the, I'd say like marketing, promotional side of your business. Content is more like here we are, who we are, what we do, how you want to perceive yourself. And
Right.
those two are obviously interchangeable, but they're very separate. And then we can dive in deeper. Like there's like technical writing, medical writing. Technical writing is when like people write like manuals for things and that sort of stuff, depending on the context of your business as well. Um, but most of where I found myself was always going back to narration, and it's like, okay, well, how can I go from music journalism for so many years and turn that into helping like business creatives and businesses overall. And I just kind of discovered that um, obviously there's stories within numbers. So, for example, like you're starting a business and you have all these, well, nonprofits. This is a great example. With nonprofits, like you have to be super transparent, right? You know this from working with them, and so this is where all the financial statements come into place, usually public. And a lot of people will not donate if it's not public because they want to see where their money's going. They want to see what you can do. And when
Right.
you're writing out these like financial statements, which seems kind of daunting, there's so many details that go into it. So, say for example, like, well, why did they make 15,000 more this quarter than they did last quarter? Why did it drop? And there's a story behind that. There's a number of reasons that could tell you, like, okay, well, this event really worked well for them, or they rearranged direction, they have new management. There's a number of things that can happen. But the key thing is there's always going to be a story in the numbers. And I find that super fascinating. And that's where a lot of businesses don't often seem to think the look when they're promoting themselves. It's like, okay, yeah, I can give you all the stats, but I don't know how to make that creative, right? So it's
Yeah.
like I kind of come in and I'm like, all right, well, give me all the stats, all the logistics, and then my kind of like writing / algebraic mind will kind of transform the two into one and say, okay, let's make a story about this.
Yeah. You were just talking about narration. I want to touch base on that for a second, because I don't know if my listeners know, or our listeners know, what the definition is of narration, even though it's a word that we know, but like, what, you know what I mean?
That's a great question. You know, I can't give one definite answer because each culture has a different level of narration and what it means to them. Storytelling, essentially, right? I mean, if you had to put in a nutshell, it's storytelling. Um, but even then, words get lost in translation from generation to generation, and even transcribing things. But essentially, narration is storytelling, and in the overall, if I wanted to give it a broad term, that would be it.
Yeah. Okay. For anyone that's listening out there live on Facebook and on YouTube, anyone that has any questions about writing or anything that we're talking about right now, please put it in the comments. And anyone that is live with us right now, also please put #live. And if it's the replay, please type #replay, so that it activates the algorithm and brings this particular topic to more people, so that it can help them. Pedro, shall I put you out of the picture for a second and bring you back in a minute? Let me know. Just put your hand up whenever you got a question. Don't you fall asleep. I'm telling you. He's going to be like, Pedro.
He's good.
Where the hell is this guy? Okay, ciao. Yeah. Pedrito, hey, by the way, Pedro does amazing design for Coffee with Tea. Like, dude, it's getting, I mean, it was already great, but now it's like getting, like, I'm starting to tear up right now.
No,
okay, I shouldn't have brought this. I shouldn't
don't
have
do
brought
that.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
No, don't get emotional. No, don't do that. Thanks,
No,
man. Thanks,
it's
man.
true. It's true. Second to none, man. Like, brilliant stuff.
So appreciate. Really. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay,
I'll be back here. Enjoy.
Okay, now that he's gone, let's really speak our mind about Pedro. Huh? Just
kidding. Okay.
Oh. Yes. I love this topic because I love speaking with my heart when it comes to any content that I write. Even like today, I recorded a video, to announce that we're going to be live in half an hour. And it's just like, for me, it's got to be informative, but also me, right? So that sense of like authenticity, the people know me, so I'm not going to try to make it look slick, or, you know what I mean? Like,
no, you never have. I mean, even when we had conversations, like at your place before, like, with Lisa, it was just kind of super organic, and you've always kind of been that way, and even when I was promoting this, I had a lot of messages like, how do I tune in? Like, so it's really cool because people, do seem interested, and we both have vastly different personalities, but we love sharing, stories, and that can, that is the form of narration right there. So, and having conversations with your friends and colleagues, and that's it. We have little bits of narration every day. So
it's funny that you mentioned
whether it's true or not.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, but there is that narration there. That's the underlining of whatever is going on top of that, whether that's organized or not, whether it's a bunch of BS or not, it's still the narration still remains.
And I'll be honest, like, reality TV kills me every day inside.
Right?
Because it's actually not reality TV at all. I'm like, this is
No.
It's
Right.
crazy. Anyway.
Right. Painful, huh?
Yeah.
You just touched base on what is that noise? It sounds like a nagging child, but I think it's a tree outside. Because we live in a forest, right? And there's like it's really windy today. There's like, I'm like, what is that?
I don't hear it, but I'm
Good.
getting stares from the cat.
Stairs, like
Yeah,
dirty stairs,
they're
like
very loud. So,
like why you not looking at me?
yes, that's the
Yeah,
look.
I'm
Right?
over here.
And like looking at the audio, like what is this?
Why
You
you
know,
like it's about me.
exactly.
What's going on? Abby and I, she interviewed me back when we still lived in the States. We were actually just leaving the States. We were living on a beach called Folly Beach, and we had a little beach house there. And did we? Yeah, it was during that time, I think, because you came to the beach house as well.
I did. We had our midnight drinks and chat. And I remember I was completely sober, but I fell over on the deck. I remember that.
Really? Oh yeah, that's right. You fell off that thing, the step.
Every time oh my gosh, now I think about it. Remember we met up at Earth Fair and I slipped on that grape?
Yes. Every time we meet, she falls over.
I get injured.
Yeah, we thought we'd just like meet up on Zoom now, so that we're like so that that doesn't happen. Don't fall off your chair.
It's actually one of those yoga balls. So.
Oh, that's super dangerous right now.
Well, it's great, but there was one day I was riding and I was, and for some reason, I don't know, I guess I turned the wrong way and I literally slid off and smacked my shin on the desk. And I'm like, how did this even happen?
I've seen you like in agony quite a few times now. It's like, why not with anybody else? This chick is just like randomly like hurting herself. Don't slam your face against the back wall there by accident while we're on this call, okay? Do you have pillows like laying around? Anyways, but yeah, so you interviewed me on like music journey and the philanthropy aspect, and because that was what I was doing in the States, music, and like very intensely involved in the charity world there, and concerts and stuff like that, but very much like a social presence in Charleston, I think. And so you interviewed me, and I read it back, like when that article was still up. And this is the thing about documenting yourself, okay? And I'm going to tell you what I'm trying to get to. When you document yourself and you don't look at it for a while, and I'm seeing this now for years, right? Because I get articles that I've written, or articles that were written about me, or interviews that now like that I'm reading back and I'm seeing back, or videos or interviews or whatever on like whatever radios, and it's like, I'm like, what the fuck was this now? What the hell was I saying? And it's like to the point where you're like, please delete this entire thing, because it's like I'm just like, this is a completely different person.
It's way worse for writers. I can guarantee you, as a writer, and people who know me in general know that like it's almost embarrassing, and but that's how you start. And I remember, this is, oh my gosh, like I'll go back and read stuff and I'm like, so if you read my early stuff, it's all Q&A, and I've completely admitted that now for a number of reasons. One, it's just too long, a lot of misinterpretations. It doesn't have any flowetry to it. It doesn't tell a story. So I look back at those older ones and I'm like, I can't believe I did that. And so now I'm super judgmental about like a publication that does Q&A. And I'm like, and I've had some of my own former clients get questioned by much bigger publications than myself. And it'll be like 10 questions, like, what's your favorite color? I'm like, really? You just released an album and they're going to ask you what your favorite color is. Like, no joke. And I'm just like, these like people buy this stuff, but even still, like, but I understand what you're saying. It's how you grow. And I remember being young and inspiring, music journalist, and I had the opportunity. I worked for a publication out in London. It was based in London, and I would cover all the East Coast like shows for electronic dance music and interview all these DJs. And there was one big time DJ. He goes by BT, Brian Tyler. A lot of people know him for like he did like the Fast and Furious soundtrack, the original, lots of soundtracks, lots of old school dance stuff. And I had the opportunity to interview him, and I was super excited, but I bombed it completely. Like I didn't do enough research, and he was completely bored. He was yawning, yada yada yada. It was like I've been doing this for years, obviously, duh. And like,
Right.
but it was an excellent lesson for me. And then when I had the opportunity, I think about a year and a half later, to interview him again, I remember that, even though it was kind of hurtful, like I remember that to this day. And I had the opportunity to tell him one day, like I think like a year ago, and I was like, "Hey, you probably don't remember me, but yada yada yada," and he really appreciated that, because he was like, "Oh, great, I'm happy for you," and like, there's always a lesson somewhere. And I was like, "Yeah, but I learned a big lesson because I was so focused on like trying to do the way that the company wanted, instead of like just letting it happen naturally, and obviously doing your research."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I something that I discovered, I was writing for a magazine as well in out of Charleston. And what I realized is like I had 7 questions that I would ask people. And those were like the key, like kind of like the foundational questions. And then I would do research about the artist, and then I would wrap the questions in so that they would be able to speak about what it is that they want to talk about. Something cool happened here. I brought the questions, and I presented myself, not as the company, and like very random. I think if you start communicating as a cold connection with me, I'm like straight. I'm even more myself then, so that the other party knows that they can be completely themselves with me, which is actually very much tied into copywriting, writing, and the power that is behind that true essence of being yourself while you're writing, and just like in a non-judgmental way to them or to you, just like being yourself. And then they would give me the answers, right? Boom. And then I'll be like, I would kind of like make sure if this is what they meant, right? Because they might not be familiar or experienced with this kind of thing, even though they might be big artists. They might be nervous or something like that. And then I'm like, okay, cool. So then I would get all the questions or all the answers back, and then I would run the entire article by them, which is very unusual, right? It like, are you happy with what I've created here, right?
So what was your experience with that? Because I don't have an experience with that.
So my experience with that is that the relationship between the one who's asking the questions and the one that answers the questions becomes incredibly profound, because now you're just having like a usual conversation privately, right?
Well, I meant not the relationship. I meant the part where obviously the relationship, yes, very, very intimate. But the part where you just give them the whole article before you even make any revisions.
Well, actually, really interesting, because when they read the conversation as it is as a reader, right, not just as like answering random questions, questions came back for me because they knew that I was an artist as well. And so now it's like the question becomes like a really nice conversation, with like as if it was like on a call, like this. So that was a really interesting development. And not only that, but with those artists I'm now really good friends with,
Yeah.
And in Ghana, in the States, in France, in Germany, in the Middle East, I've created really solid relationships with beautiful people who happen to be artists that it's just a wonderful journey writing. And
the same with my clients. Like I would have never, I have clients who are also friends, you know, in different parts of the world, and I never would have met these relationships so profound. So even like the smaller successes are really important to me. You know, I have one that lives here, and we did a beautiful business bio for her and her business, which is solely based actually around like her family, which is really important to her. So when her son had a birthday, I made sure to come over with gifts and, you know, just make it really personal for her, because, you know, as a single mom, it's really hard, and you're trying to run a business and do other things. And, you know, it even making sure I do follow-up emails with my clients overseas, and even just like, hey, you know, like postcards. That was the big thing for me, was making sure people got the handwritten postcards. I wrote about 200 of those. And so,
really,
yes,
it's in the kitchen. It's on my wall.
it's okay. For New Year's, I printed out a bunch of Bear Nation postcards, and I sent them out to my friends and clients and supporters.
I loved it. The next time I want a poster, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
You're right. Those relationships are really important. And for me, when I started, it was just like I would, especially music, you know, big, you know, start out with music industry. It was, you know, it's a big essential part of my life. I would, you know, if I discovered an artist and I knew they weren't like super big yet, you know, they're still kind of like, you know, the lower end, you know, not a lot of people know about them. I just send them a message or an email and like, hey, I really love your style. I'd love to interview you. And it would be just like, that's how it would start. And then now that interview has opened the doors up for like press release editing, artist statements, and even I'm doing music management consulting. So like there's all these things that, and then people have actually, because I followed up with them, even if I haven't worked with them in years, like, hey, how's it going? What's going on with you? That actually helped me rebook clients. So following up is super important, and making sure like, one, you care about them. You know, it's not just, and even giving honest feedback. Like there's certain labels and PR managers that know not to send me certain things, because I'll tell them like, this is either terrible or it has no way, shape, or form. And I'm pretty blunt about it, like about like what the essence is. Like if it's just to make music and you just want to throw it out there, by all means, make some noise. But if you're sending me like, and this happens with a lot of labels, because, you know, like if anybody needs like good content and copywriters, it's labels. I'm gonna say, but I understand they're running a very different mindset of business than we are as creatives. They're not in the they're actually not in the creative industry. They're in the money making industry. It's very different.
Yeah, the marketing
So,
and the promotion,
and so
sales.
when they send me stuff, and it, like the press, their press release doesn't even match remarkably close to who the artist actually is or wants to be, or what the music portrays, and it sounds awful. Like none of it works. And so I have no problem saying no. And then I, you know, even with certain people, like they'll say, hey, what do you think of my track? And I'll, you know, tell them, and, you know, this is, you know, I feel a connection here, but not here. Or, and that is so incredible. And to just even share that with people that either become clients or friends, or became friends and then clients, you know, like just having that relationship is so important. And I've honestly grown so much as a writer because of it, because I get to see how their brain works. And working with people internationally where English is not their first language has been even better, because, you know, they want to tap into this industry, and I get to see how, like, what their lifestyle's like. And so when I say, for example, like a business bio or even a press release statement, or whatever new thing that they wanted to, whatever project or customized project we want to work on, I need to get to know them first. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of create a set list of questions, about 10, maybe 11 questions, asking them about their project and who they are and where they're from. And especially if they're from another like country or city, I want to know that. I want to know what it's like for them to live there. So that's one of my questions. And I'll take their answers and I highlight what's important, you know, what's really, really valid and tells that story for them. And then I'll compose it from there. And that way I understand where they're coming from. So if there's any kind of miscommunication, we can go back and we can look at it differently or from their perspective. And that has been truly, truly life-changing because especially with pandemic, had not been able to travel, I don't get that. I haven't had that chance to like go outside myself. And this is a way for me to go outside myself and learn something new about someone and still help them. And it's been amazing. Like I have friends and clients in, Europe, Asia, Middle East as well, and South America. And it's great because I understand something about the world a little bit differently.
Oh yeah, international travels opens your mind to the point where you're like seeing through all the bullshit. This is one of the it's one of the beauties about traveling, isn't it? And being a foreigner. I've been a foreigner my entire life. Um, only the first 9 to 10 years of my life, but for the last 30 years, I've been like, it's incredible actually how significant that has become in my writing as well. And also with like self-judgment, where you're like, like whatever, I'm just gonna do it anyway because I've always done it. There's been a period in my life where you're like, yeah, I was very self-conscious about how I presented myself in front of people, but I've also always been myself. And now it's really about, peeling those onion layers, back more to really just be light, like in weight, just.
It does. It's so, even now, like recently I've been, I took a break from journaling, and not because I didn't want to, it just kind of happened that way. And recently I've been able to kind of get back in that creative zone. And when I'm writing, it's amazing. Like I'm actually a terrible speller. I will admit this. Spelling is not my forte. So dictionary and thesaurus are my best friends. So when I do my journal, it's terrible spelling. Like it's on purpose because to me it's organic. And then, but I know what I said, and it's nobody else's business. But it makes it organic. It makes you you, and I'm still me at the end of the day. And it's honestly just kind of helped me help other people because it's a form of therapy, right?
Yep, absolutely, it is. Mm-hmm. It is.
And that's one of the biggest powerful things about writing. It lets you, let out all these different emotions, and there's so many emotions tied in it. We like to go with the most obvious, right? Sad, angry, happy. But there's so many of these umbrella emotions that we forget about that are equally important. And, you could be like, oh, well, I'm sad today, but it's really, really deep, right? And so like there's a bit of depression. And I generally believe there's always some sort of type of depression in everyone. And I think that's important because it's equal to the contentment of life as well. The yin and the yang, and tapping into those emotions really helps you understand you. And for me, anger is like one of my biggest ones. So like it is. So, but
hilarious.
I help, like it helps me like when I'm writing, like, or I have headphones on, and and I put a lot of my aggression out in my writing, and it shows. And I've written some of my best work, not to say that I need to be angry to write, but it's helped kind of boost that.
I think that's one of the key things in storytelling and story writing and coming up with stories is the imagination part, mm-hmm. which is not the part that but the part that you don't know, and it's not always about the solution, in stories. It's also about the presentation, and how you make other people feel or see. That's a huge misconception, I think, because people always think solution based, which in the online marketing space, yes, you do have to have the solution for certain problems or pain points. That brings me to the next question, or a question. You obviously see a lot of, I'm swimming in a field of online marketers now, especially in the high ticket affiliate marketing realm. You obviously see a lot of online stuff, fluff, gold, not so good stuff. Um, what is something that you can maybe give advice on when it comes to like writing copy on social? Is there a specific platform that you would like to focus on for that?
That's a good question. And that kind of just stems into the conversation that we just dipped off of. And I was thinking while you were saying that, because you grew up, schooling in Europe, and I grew up mostly schooling here in the United States. So,
Well, schooling. Let's take my schooling with a pinch of salt, shall
okay,
we?
all
But
right.
yeah,
Well,
go on.
you are much more, you're the more global scholar than myself. Okay,
That
from
sounds
a young
better.
age. Okay,
That sounds great.
and so what's happening and what I've seen here, and I've gotten, and distinctly remember just getting so much trouble with teachers and professors here because they're it's all about solution. When you go to math class, they're like, we don't care how you did it, we want the answer, right? And nowadays it's not like that. You have to do it exactly the way they tell you and still get the answer, which I think it's just hindering all these creative abilities of kids. Myself was included in that. Like I'm super dyslexic. So algebra and Japanese are really easy for me. And so what's happening is, and when I was writing, it was like, that was my form of therapy, especially through my teenage years, all these things going on in your puberty life. And so when you condemn someone, or you say you can't do this, or give me that, or what are you doing, this is wrong, when you're showing that kind of, whether they're supposed to be focusing on your subject or not, if, like I have people take notes and doodle or whatever it is. Okay, if you have to doodle that, think, it helps you think. It's not necessarily saying they're not paying attention, but they have their own way. And the only one who really recognized this right off the bat was I had a professor. It was a music and philosophy class, which is really, really hard. It's a really hard course. And I was drawing out the cover of an Incubus album, but I was listening to him, and I was taking all these like doodles and notes about what we were talking about. And he was like going around the class, and he looked at it and he goes, so you think Plato's a music phobe? And I was like, absolutely, this guy's a jerk. And so, but it opened the door for conversation. And that's what I think is missing, especially, I don't know about in Europe or Asia or in other parts of the world, but the United States, what I'm seeing there is, there's huge needs. There's a huge need for creatives in the business world. That is so evident now more than ever. And yet we're in the public schooling system, we're just putting this creativity into 1 hour recess, or just kindergarten or first grade. Even then, like first graders are doing like super developed math homework and having computers and stuff, which is also creative too. But you're not allowing the child to really be creative in themselves and learn. I mean, that's how we grow as people. And so I find it really disheartening. So when and I have people I work with, and they're like very too direct to the point, and I respect that. But the thing with creatives is you have to learn to just shut up and let them work, because this is what they do best. And if you keep pestering them, we're just going to get ticked off and like don't want to work with you. But I do allow a room for like a revision, and then we have a conversation piece and go on. But I kind of derailed from your original question, so I apologize.
No, it's okay.
But the
It's
creative
important.
is so important, and it's missing. It's still a missing link here in North America. So I don't know about other places, but that having that is the foundation for everything else. And when it comes to writing, you don't have to be a creative writer. You can be a technical writer. You can be a medical writer. It doesn't matter, but you still have to have the passion and the ability to understand how to make words, become themselves in a way that either you need to dumb it down to people understand in a manual or in a PowerPoint, or you can make it sound people smarter, kind of like what I do, or you just, make it sound like they speak English, or, it makes it. And the thing with the business bios is like, I try to do it.
With the what?
What's that?
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
Um,
The thing about the business is that.
Oh, the business bios.
The business bios, right?
Yes. So the business biographies that I do, this is my top seller. Like I try to take whatever content or whatever wording comes from the person themselves, and then I just I quote what's quotable, and then I tell the narrative behind it, because I want them to tell their own story. And because one, they have control over that, and two, they have a say so in how they want to portray themselves as well. There's one or two people that didn't like how they were portrayed, but that's that was a different dynamic. But for the most part, it's a really beautiful way to kind of see yourself. And even if you don't think you're creative, and again, it goes back to your question, because having that sense, and even if you can't see it and someone else can, that is, to me, is like the ultimate foundation for any type of umbrella content. So when you're thinking, like, for example, my client in the Middle East who needed web content for his automotive business, I vaguely know about the auto industry, very vaguely. I may know more than the average person, but it's not even close. And so, I was like, okay, well, give me like your mission, your vision, yada, 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 and give me your slogan. And, it's very, his mindset and his business is very, very technical. It's very logical, right? There's no room for, like, let's nip some poetry and flowers. There's none of that, okay? There's no flowers not in auto. So what I did was I got to know him more as the owner or the business. So I was like, let me know a little bit more about you, and then let me know a little bit more about your business. I got the social media, and then so I'm seeing the videos that they put together, and it's really awesome. You see them like put together car parts and sell them and stuff. It's really cool. The music sucks though, but and so I'm tying this together, and then I'm like, okay, and even though I'm not doing a business bio, I have to sell these people, right? And so what I did is I just took a little bit of keywords that not just automotive, it can be in any kind of business and like niche. And then I took that and I put it with the automotive, and bam, and he loved it. He was like, whoa. He's like, I never expected this, like, and it worked out really well. So I was like, yes. But also, like, it gave me confidence, because I was like, I don't know anything about this industry. And so now, I'm learning from that experience, and I can use that template, and then I can just go on and at first I was using one template for everything, but now it's like you really have to be super open, and you have to know your client really well. And if you don't know your client individually, I don't think you're going to know their business either.
Right. And that's the exciting part, really. Even though that's kind of like what consumes the time, like digging deep and asking questions and getting to know each other, and so that from what angle they're coming, right? Because otherwise you just like, just do some, here you go, and whatever.
Yeah. And that I went to there was a period of my life where I wasn't making any income at all, and I was kind of in between this phase. And so what I did was someone mentioned to me about Business Network International, BNI chapters. They're all over the world. You meet up in different parts of your city with different people, like once a week, maybe have lunch, and then you sit down and they're lawyers and financial advisors and bakers and business, all different types of business owners, and they all get together and they get to know each other, and they do referrals, and that's their biggest niche, is referring people. Like, oh, you need a painter, I know somebody. And so, like, but it's really cool because I was like, I don't know, I don't feel like writing's in that space. But what happened was, now this is when I was just like, where music and storytelling collide. Okay, that was the early phase of Variation. And so what I did was I treated myself a little spa day, and I got dressed up, and I had a little slacks on and a nice dress shirt. And I went to this business meeting now, and I did pick Mount Pleasant. And if you're not from South Charleston, South Carolina, Mount Pleasant is where a lot of some of the business decisions are made in Charleston. Not the city of Charleston, but Mount Pleasant, which is right over.
Up their own ass. Sorry, what? What did you say? Up their what? Go on.
But there's some some good people there, but
No,
Mount
just kidding. Yeah, absolutely.
But Mount
I never.
Pleasant
Yeah,
is
go
where
on.
the businesses really truly take off,
Yeah,
and no matter where they're located in Charleston.
sure.
What I did is I specifically picked the one where it had like, I mean, some of the top people in their field. So I'm showing up and I'm like, I'm throwing myself out there. And if you know me, I'm kind of quiet and I like to reserve the room first, but I didn't have a chance to do that. So I had to go in there and shake hands with all kinds of people.
Yeah.
And what it did for me was wonders. Well, one, I got to get my car insurance down, and two, and two, I in that moment I'm like taking notes and because you have to like do improv like introductions, and so like I'm waiting for my turn and I'm like panicking, and then something just switched because we're in this business set, and I said, oh, I am no longer just music, this is business and storytelling. And
Yeah.
then I was like, and then when I was explaining my introduction, I was like, there's always a story in the numbers, right? And they really liked that. And
Mm.
so like that kind of gave me the confidence, one, for public speaking, and two, to kind of really broaden myself to where I am now and help not just creatives but businesses too.
Yeah. Yeah. There's quite a big development there and shift as well, isn't it?
Yes.
And like really letting that grow and that shift take its own place. Something that I want to. Oh, first of all, before I do that, I want to welcome everybody. What's up, Mel? Nice to see you again. What's up, Astrid? Hi. Brenda Leo, what's up? Clay Stuckey. Do you know Clay?
Clay. Oh my gosh. Hi, Clay.
Clay,
Wow.
you saved my life so many times.
Wow.
Like
Back.
Clay Stuckey, man, it's really nice seeing you. Are you still there, Clay? What's going on, man? How are you? Long time. What a nice guy. Damn, Clay, you're such a nice guy. It's true. It's true. Amazing musician, and he allowed us to record a song for the Philippines, the
Oh
foundation
yes,
of
I
Song for the
remember
Philippines.
that
In
fundraiser. Yes.
yeah,
I brought you
in
this
his.
table.
That's right. That's right. You were there too. You were part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Massive studio session in well, actually there were 10 different studios eventually involved in that. But Clay not only facilitated us with that, but also, which is actually a great story, and I'll keep it short. A musician, drummer, bass player, also a studio owner, beautiful property. I think his family runs another business as well, a big business, and but always had time for me. He always had time for me. Like, whenever I was in a pickle because he was doing PA gear stuff as well. What's up, Clay? Stucky Productions, I think. Stucky, yeah. Whenever I was in trouble, like I need a light or I need a stand or I need something, I'm like, yo, Clay, man, you got my back or something, And he's like, yeah, man, no worries, man. Just open the garage there, and the keys there, and it's like I'm like just like walking,
So
like,
beautiful.
you know what I mean? Like it just grew
Yeah.
so fast. It's such a great heart. Thank you, Clay. There you go. The power of. I could have written that down. There's a story right there. Actually, I might do that. What's the other thing? Oh yeah. What was? Oh yeah. The something to practice, things to practice, maybe. Because whenever I see my people, in
Yeah,
in the field, yeah.
you're
No,
right.
no, like the people in my realm at the moment,
Yeah.
which is the musicians, of course, the artists, but also the ones that want to earn fuckloads of money, right? So I'm like swimming in these like very different, actually two very different worlds when it comes to
Same
the
here.
finance, right? The
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah.
And so whenever you see an online marketer especially in the organic world, which means that you're not paying, that you're using social media basically for your business, you can really tell which one has just started, the one who already has some experience, and the one who just like,
Uh,
doesn't give a
I,
shit anymore, or he's like really on it.
yeah, and I love reading, but I'm more of a nonfiction reader. Don't get me wrong, I love a good novel. But I always have like, so I have this thing. I have like a biography I'm reading, a financial read, and then maybe something fun, maybe if I have time. And I found that with money or anything financial, like the story is astronomical. Like it because it comes from nothing, right? And it just like blows you. It still blows my mind to this day. Um,
Mhm.
and I think it's really it's good you bringing that up because as creatives or people who are like, I'm not really about the money. I just want to make my craft, right? But the
Mhm.
thing is, like, you have to be a little selfish in the sense, like, when you need to understand this huge fundamental asset, which can make you more assets. And
Yeah.
that's something that we were not taught in school, right?
Mm.
And everybody's starting to figure that out now, and it really kind of, for me, it stirred up some anger issues. But then when you get to the root of it, money can solve a lot of your problems, yes. But if you don't understand how it works or how it can benefit you or how your lifestyle in general, whether how you eat, how you get up, how you sleep, that all affects how you make money too.
Absolutely.
And and people forget that. And yeah, we're in a money making capitalism way, if you will. And not to get too off topic, but one
Oh,
of my
we're
other
we're like way off, but I love it.
yes,
Go.
well, one of my favorite subjects is the study of North Korea, and some of you know this, but what I find most fascinating is that these people come from such a repressed country. I mean, they don't even, you know, there's no internet. They only have cell phones, but it's only for internally used off of China's towers. But even still, it's only reserved for like the people that live in the capital. They get the cream of the crop, right? They're considered the happiest people or
Okay.
happiest citizens. Even still, very much repressed. And they don't have a capitalist economy. Okay, whatever they get is in very, very internal, and it's mostly through China or Russia, but it's very, 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 very on a thin line. But they do have this wonderful black market. And what happened was, when things went really south, like in I'd say about 10, 15, 20 years ago, like our generation and even younger still found a way to like, first of all, they're starving. That's the big point. They're starving. Okay, hunger makes you do crazy things. Makes
Hmm.
you eat people, makes you eat rats, like makes you do stuff you didn't think you could possibly do. But when you're that hungry for food and comfort, you'll be amazed at what you could do. When they say like a hungry dog, we're going to see how hungry a dog really is. Um, but what they found was that there was this black market and they were able to kind of get themselves out of poverty. I mean, these are people that don't understand money. They don't have it. They maybe get $5, it translates to like $5 US a soldier in North Korea, which is supposed to be considered amazing, the prized citizen, gets maybe like $5 a month US. So
Right.
imagine that. So they most of their stuff gets food rations. That's how they sustain, and they don't pay rent. The government provides everything for you, but they get a lot of food rations, and so they money's not the big thing over there because they can't
Hmm.
buy anything with it. You know,
Yeah.
so lots of bartering stuff. So what our generation and younger done, and some of the older too, is that this black market has introduced them to capitalism. They don't even know it. They have no idea this is capitalism, and they're so like anti-American imperialism. But it goes to show, yeah, there's some problems in corporations. I understand that. I was like that once, but capitalism works. It helps these people get out of there, and then a lot of these people have been able to save up to defect, and that's how they got here.
Right. I
And
mean, it's about
yeah,
a balancing. It is about a balancing act, of course.
yeah.
I mean, I live in Finland, and the financial, the balance here is very healthy. I think,
Mhm.
things are very, very well supported. Thanks for that insight. Um, Hi, Nora. What's going on? I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Um, what do you recommend someone to do that wants to start writing? Is there like a specific thing that you would say? You know, this is actually something that is useful?
Oh, absolutely. I could say be yourself, but the thing with writing is you're really not yourself. You're like a different version of yourself. You have to be, I want you to, if you're going to pursue writing, whether it's journaling, I would start with journaling, number one. Because
Journaling.
when you journal, what happens is there's a very different side of yourself, and it usually makes you feel uncomfortable because you don't share that with other people. And I like to use the term werewolf when I write, because that's what
Werewolf.
it feels like night and day for me. And I'll
Mm.
go back and read it, and I'm like, oh, what a drastic change. If you are truly not comfortable with yourself in those vulnerable moments, you are not going to have the confidence to go and present yourself as you are on the outside of writing. And that may not make sense to some people, but believe me, the more intuitive you are with yourself, the easier it's going to be in the future. And the same with writing. Like I write down all kinds of stuff, and like if you read it, you probably think this girl is crazy. You know,
I
like
already knew that, but yeah.
you know, but like who thinks of these things? Like, do other people think about punching people in the face? Like, I don't know. But, but it helps you understand yourself more. And doing away with, now I have a very different, if you, let's say, for example, someone wants to go into journalism, by all means, go to college, get some experience, get an internship, all for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, have very different experience. I did not go to get a degree in any kind of in English, journalism, any of that. And the reason being is, yes, it's something I enjoy, but it is a passion project. But I have a very hard time having the constructive criticism, especially 10 years ago, when people tell me I couldn't write. And I had people tell me I couldn't write, and I'm like, you don't know me. You're not going to tell me I can't write. I know I can write. So if you're not ready for constructive criticism, don't do it. Just wait until you are, or force yourself to get into that mindset. What happened with me is I just took side gigs writing for other publications, and I got better each time. And I remember this conversation with a former music professor / friend. Oh gosh, Wilton Elder is his name. You probably know him.
I do.
And yeah, he taught at Trident. He taught music something. He taught a music class, music appreciation class. What he taught, and I took it, and obviously, you know me, sorry, student. But one of the things he said was, my gigs are always an interview for the next gig, and I feel the same way about writing. So no matter how crappy it is, like I look at old stuff and I'm like, this is garbage. Okay, I would not pay someone to read it, but it helped me either make another opportunity or just get better each and every time. And that's what's happening now. Now I look at stuff now that I wrote for like 9 to 5 magazine, or even now with my own website, and I'm just like, oh my god, I wrote that. Like, it's amazing, but you really have to. And there are times where taking that criticism is essential, and there's times where there might, I've had my own problems with it with certain people, but I'm past that now. And so in order to work with someone, you have to be really confident. But I think the foundation would be to just keep at it, but also find someone. If you're going to do an internship, make sure you're able to talk to. Because I've been in positions where like the editor just completely erased everything and made it sound like I was not myself, and then the person I was writing about found it really offensive when the article came out, and I'm like, well, this actually wasn't me, it was my editor that changed it. And so like that's the other thing too. So that was a big reason why I didn't pursue the degree, but I had other ambitions at the time, and
Sure.
Arts management was that thing, and I'm glad I did, because I got to take financial management courses in nonprofits, and I think that helped me way better than sitting there writing paper after paper after paper, which I don't think is wrong. But if you want a degree in English or journalism, by all means, go for it. But you really have to be comfortable with yourself and be a little bit vulnerable, take in some kind of criticism, and then just kind of, and then, form it into something else. I mean, there's always going to be someone that's going to tell you can't do something, and he who says he can, he who says can't are both equally right. Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. You just mentioned Wilton Elder. What's up, Wilton? If you ever see this, I used to play music with him almost every week, and he's a man. He was a man.
Yeah, he was in was it Deluxe, Super Deluxe? I think that's what it's
Super
called.
Deluxe. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lisa says, "Hey, Abby.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey,
Hello, my
Abby,
love.
love. Hi,
Oh,
hi, Lisa.
I love her to death. Oh.
Me too.
You're only the husband. You don't know.
Yeah, that picture is actually taken on the beach, on Folly
It's a
Beach.
Folly Beach. That's right.
Folly Beach. Oh, what a mess. Something that people that are starting to write, I recommend do is starting with 1,000 words. You know, as in like a journaling thing. The reason why I say 1,000 is because it's got to be fairly extensive for you to get into that flow, and 1,000 isn't even that much.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I recommend doing it with pen and paper so that it's really like true hands on the paper with the thing.
I'm the same way. I'm very old school when it comes to
Yeah,
writing.
but
And
some people like it on,
no, and I do both.
you
So,
know.
so
Yeah.
if I'm working with a client, what I'll do is I'll type it up, and then I print it out when they send me back the feedback, what I need, and then I highlight things, and then I take the highlighted material and then I formulate whatever I need to formulate. But if I'm writing for myself, it is, if I can't get to it, I have one specific little notebook which a really dear friend of mine gave me like 5-6 years ago, and it says Abby's creative book or something on it, and I still have
Nice,
it
nice.
that way. That is obviously, and it's just filled with all kinds of stuff, right? And I'm actually in the process now, even though it's just sporadic, but it's in my head, it's in a different format, right? I'm in the process of taking some of those entries and putting it into a book, hopefully.
Good.
Because I think people need to, I like reading biographies, but the ones that truly reach out to me, the ones that, people always want to try to find something that's relatable, right? And
Yeah.
I think, people who know me, they know me a little bit kind of shy, or not shy, but, quiet and just kind of more reserved, but also like some people, and then there's the feisty side of me. So there's like these two dynamics, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's important, like some people might find it relatable, like, oh, she understands because she's just fighting these two emotions, but she's able to kind of, still be one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And see that the contrast, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing I really like doing, and I don't do this enough, but I'm going to share this with you because I think it's golden. Start with one word. Just think of one word. Let's say, okay, I'm looking at trees now. The word tree, right? Write about, if you're not sure what topic to write about, literally just write down something that what you're looking at already that is, right in front of you. Even like if you're sitting in front of a computer, laptop, for example, how does this thing make you feel? Just write about it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to make sense. Just get started. Just start.
That is
Start.
good. And I think people should formulate that into their daily life. You don't have to be every day, but just every other day.
Yeah.
Just when you're having your morning coffee or tea or afternoon or evening, like having the writing is so essential because it helps you de-stress, or it helps you work you up. However you want to do it. It's a workout for your brain, not
Yeah.
just your body. And
Yeah. But also organize yourself, right?
Yes, it helps
It's
you
also
organize.
organize.
And, like, I'm the most organized person I know. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Completely. Well, not so much anymore. Now I'm pretty strict with myself compared to in the past, and I'm still growing. But guys, we've got a few minutes left. Any questions coming out of YouTube or Facebook? I can't really see the feed very well on my phone. I can see who's there, but I can't see the comments except for the one with Lisa that just popped up. Pedrinho, how are you doing, brother?
Hey guys, I've
Hey.
been blown away by your conversation. It's amazing the things I've learned and so many connections I've made with music, artists, and stuff like that. The only thing that Abby, you really triggered me was this thing about, and I really thought about that, would be how do you connect reading with writing,
I like that question a lot.
right?
Even for someone who has trouble reading or writing, either spectrum, I find it most useful when you read. Just forget about everything you know. Read it from their perspective, especially because I read a lot of nonfiction, so I have to just let that creative mind just be like, shut up, turn off, because I'm trying to obtain new information or learn something, right? It's very different when you're just reading a novel or a fantasy or something like that. But if you really truly want to digest the information, forget about it, what you know about it first, read it, and then eventually something's going to register for you or connect with you. And I mean, I was reading a book about real estate and how this guy, like, I don't know anything about real estate, but how he went from like not selling anything to selling, the top New York City stuff. But it's a sales book, but which is something I tried to work on as well. But I don't know anything about real estate, but what was fascinating was like how he went from homelessness to this, and that's something relatable for some people. So I think just whatever you think you know about something, forget about it, read it, digest it as much as you can, and then eventually something relatable is going to come out of it. But you have to keep an open mind.
Amazing. Yeah. That's something that came to my mind because I'm getting so fired up every time I'm reading someone, especially someone that inspires you, and
Although it could go the opposite way, like you think you're like, oh, I can't wait to read this guy's story, right, or a girl's story, and then it turned out to be totally like, this is not how I perceive it, because we have this pedestal of people, right, that we put them on. So yeah.
There was once, can't remember his name, but he was saying something. You can even start copying stuff if you don't know what to do. You're in scratch, null,
Okay.
zero, none. So you might take things from different writers, authors, artists, and just copy them, and then try to process that, through your brain, through your filter, and see what you can come up with.
You bring up a good point. I try not to do that, but but at the same time, but that's how you learn, like reading like other magazines and stuff. And I'm constantly, if I'm at an office of some sort and I'm picking up and I'm reading something and I see how they write, and then I can either be like, oh, I'm past this stage, or oh, I like how they did that, let me incorporate it. And so I had to stop being judgmental about things, and that's really helped me grow as a person and a writer, because when you just forget that these are humans, number one, and number two, we are prone to error, as natural as it is. And so when I'm writing, I try to remember that too. As much as I want to be like always on point, I'm not going to always be. I'm always going to have that percent that's off. And but reading other people's works, especially in the writing field, and like magazines or whatever it is that interest you, are really important, because you get to see. And I can always tell the ones that didn't write their own biography. I'm like, someone else wrote this, because this is not you. Like, I can see it. Like, because I know the pattern.
Right.
And and it either makes or breaks the story. But just again, it goes back to just whatever you think just throw it out the window.
Amazing.
I've got a question.
Okay.
From Brenda. Brenda, like, there's not one coffee with tea where Brenda is not present.
Number one, yeah.
Butting in with some random questions. Just kidding, Brenda. She's my cousin. I love Brenda. She's so cool. She's so badass. She says in Dutch, then she sent it to me privately. Why did you do that privately? How hoe maak je je hoofd leeg en vergeet je al je kennis? How do you empty your head and forget about all your knowledge?
How do you empty your head and forget about all your knowledge? That for me is journaling.
Journaling. Yeah,
Because
back to journaling.
because what happens, like, especially when you go to, like, for me, when you go to sleep, right, your brain is just, and for some people it's meditation, and my form of
Yep.
meditation is very different than yours, I'm sure. Everyone has their own way of it, but the minute I stop journaling and I get everything out for the day, and I'm doing it at night as a reference here. I I'm able to kind of just, okay, now I can focus on getting to sleep because all this other stuff's out. Or even in the morning, when I'm the most at, like, let me get work done. Um, you know, um, it's it just goes back to being that distressor and clearing your mind. But it also goes back to just being really comfortable with you. And if you can't sit and still in silence with yourself, like, say you're in your car and you're in traffic or whatever it is, and if you can't be by yourself, you always have to look at the phone or anything, like, you're not truly, like, letting yourself be recognized in that way, or knowing how your body works and how your mind works. And especially in today's age, it's really difficult, right, to not look at the TV or the phone, or pick up a book and just sit
Yeah.
there.
It's
And
an addiction almost, isn't it?
it is addiction, for everyone, myself included. And so, but when you're able to kind of sit down with yourself, and then you have that pen and pad, it's amazing. And then, like, you can just forget about what you just wrote and you read it later, and you just move on with it, and you're like, okay, now I can go make tea, or I don't think about anything else right now.
Yeah.
It's like this filter for everything.
Yeah. I don't remember who it was recently. One of the main inspirational speakers said, was it Jim Rohn that did it? Maybe you know, Pedro. This person takes 1 hour a day to just sit in silence. I mean, that is nuts.
Amazing.
With nothing going on, you're not like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm already, like, even just the thought of it, I'm already
Well,
like, maybe I need
knowing
to go
you,
and do,
you're just like, I gotta do
like, bam,
something.
bam, 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 bam. But just to be, just that's basically meditation, right? Just
Yes.
kind of.
And again, that is the power of writing itself. Like, it can be a really form of meditation and getting to know yourself. Whether you think you can write, whether you can't spell, like I said, I'm a terrible speller. And I just find the English language to be really complicated and complex, and just very robotic in certain words. Spanish, however, though, is very, very easy to write in, I feel. But almost poetic. But
Same here, yeah.
Just that is a form. That's the beauty of it, because it encompasses all these emotions that we can't verbally express sometimes. It's here. So when we put it down here, we're able to be like, oh, this is why I'm upset. And it goes back to, like, therapy. It's like, oh my gosh, like, why do I feel this way? Well, this is helping me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Something cool about knowing multiple languages like yourself. I experience when I translate, when my thought process has like a slight connection. If I'm writing in English and I'm slightly in my Dutch mode, my English is so poetic. It's like Shakespeare, like, language, where it's like Old English / what the fuck am I reading, but it makes sense.
Well, Dutch is a very old language as well.
Yeah, I guess it's one of the four walkers of English.
Well, I don't know
but
about you, Pedro, but, like, sorry, not to cut you off, but when I'm speaking Spanish, it's very similar to pronunciation Japanese. So, like, I'll want to respond in either language.
Okay. Okay, it'd be really interesting to see this actually, this process of like, if you were to speak Japanese, if you were to speak English, but almost word for word, translating it into Japanese and see what structure there is behind that.
Oh,
You know
I
what I
do
mean?
that all the time. It's
Yeah.
so fascinating because like I'll take a simple sentence and because I was actually I had an example for somebody just for fun, and it was English, Spanish, Japanese, and Hawaiian, and I took the same sentence and I highlighted like all the grammar section, and it was just wild to see like how
Yeah.
different it is. But yeah,
Guys, does anybody have any questions for Abby right now, or for myself, or for Pedro? I think we're well versed, the three of us, in this topic, especially Abby, of course. Any questions? I'm gonna put up the comment thing one more time, and then yeah. So Brenda also says, and I'm gonna answer this one. This one's for me, or actually, this is for both of us. But I'm gonna take the lead on this one. Shut up, Tommy. You're not gonna take the lead on shit, bro. Just kidding. She says, "Do you always have your own idea?" Again, translated to English. So, one of the things that I find myself doing whenever I gather information, right, from, let's say, the other day, I was very inspired by a video from Bob Proctor, and it was about it was about something, and
it comes to you like 5 a.m.
right, and like, damn it, I missed it, and I started writing, but then I went back to the YouTube video and I was like, okay, yeah, no, this is cool, and then I started writing that, and then I went back, and then I was like, wait, what minute was that? It was 16 minutes something. So I went into the video again, boom, boom, started writing this, and it was supposed to be a post, and it was just so fucking artificial. It was just so like, I already know the information, but why am I not just talking about it? You know, here I am trying to compose this, and no insult to spastic people, but it's really sounded very spastic, like as if it was like, and then here and then there, and it's just like, stop.
Yeah.
You know, so I deleted the whole thing. I was just like, okay, well, you know, now my inspiration was gone too. I was like, man, this is a low life. What the hell am I trying to do? You know, like, I don't need to do this thing. I just need to watch the thing and then like write about it, and you know, the way that I see it. You know,
Exactly, and that's like people who hire certain writers. It's like that's what they want you to do. Yes, obviously you want to tell it from the client's point of view, but each writer has its very distinct speciality, and I think that's why it's so important to get the right one with the right client. But I have a question for both of you, because you just brought up something I just thought about. When I'm writing, I like to listen to a lot of instrumental music, if I listen to music at all. Do you find that that's very the same case for you, or like, because words will sometimes get word, like if I hear some lyrics, sometimes a lyric will pop in my writing. So.
Pedro?
Well, I'm super musical, of course, but for me, when I'm writing, no, it doesn't work. I have to turn off music because I'm more into music than into the writing. It's like, for me, it's just it's automatic. I turn on the music and I'm 100% into the music, and then I get triggered with different stuff, not the things I'm writing or I'm trying to write off, you know. But that's what usually happens to me. Yeah.
By the way, the topic was deciding, of Bob Proctor. I agree. I am like that too. I'm very easily put off topic, except for if I put on music that I really like, it doesn't work because my mind goes there. And I was like, man, that snare sounds amazing. Like, boom, hit it again, yeah. And now you're like,
Yeah.
this article is just going to suck.
I guess because I'm not a music engineer. I'm not a composer. So I guess it's different for me. But it has to be instrumental. because sometimes you're like, oh, and it just kind of like I'll feel a certain way when I listen to it, and I'm like, oh, this is how I feel about this subject, so I got to sit down and write about it. So maybe if I was more musically engineered, I probably feel the same way you guys do.
Well, it's different for me when I'm designing, for example. If I'm designing, I would listen to even Queens of the Stone Age, and I go like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, now you're just like visually, actively
yeah,
doing stuff.
yeah.
Frequency music does happen for me though. Does help me.
Really?
Where it's just like undertones, like triads, like long. Where you're like, oh, I'm gone, but now I might fall asleep too. You know, like I'm like just like. What? Actually, music is
mine is Rain and Thunder. Like that's what I fall asleep to.
Okay.
And that helps me knock out all the other little noises going on.
Love that.
Yeah.
I could fall asleep right now. Honestly, I could fall asleep all the time, wherever. Like seriously, man, we're on an airplane, and Lisa's like, "Look at that down there." Huh?
I hate you right now.
Seriously, just bam, I'm gone. Like I close my eyes for like 1 minute, I'm gone. Lisa says on the plane, she's like, "Hey, look down there," and I'm like looking down through the thing, and I'm like, I literally fell asleep while looking down the freaking airplane window over her, and she's like, "Oh my god, really?"
I can see that now. I can see that expression now. And see, and I'm on the other side of you guys panicking because there's too much wind going on, and I can't sleep.
Too much wind going on outside the airplane. There's too much wind. There's too much wind.
Yeah, you see how it works.
Don't get on an airplane.
Well, no, I'm actually working on flight exposure therapy right now. So, and you know, as much as I've traveled, like I have a fear of flying. Can you believe that?
Really?
Yes.
I just looked outside. I thought it was a rat, but it's my neighbor's dog.
You pretty much described the dog.
Yeah. You suck. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Awesome.
Brenda says that she put a question out on the thing, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
She did?
Is the one, do you often have a new perspective? How do you apply that in real life? And what was one of your biggest game changers?
The biggest game changer for me was the perception of my life around me. And it happened about 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, it happens, you know, as humans, it happens over time, right? We sit down and think so. But I was actually in the Middle East for a sporting event and to see a friend of mine. And I'm surrounded. This was the first time I was surrounded by business-minded people. I'm talking about, you know, people who my age or younger are owning businesses, and they're all these different networks, and I mean the people all over the world. And I'm sitting next to people who speak Japanese. I had the opportunity to do so, and yet I'm still really intimidated by, and that's how I found out about the BNI groups. But so I'm sitting with all these different expats, and they're here in this country for many reasons, along with some locals. And I felt so, when they asked me what I did, I was like, I'm a writer. And like, but I didn't like, I felt so intimidated by these people because I was just so uncomfortable. And I'd never been around these kind of people before. And that was a very monumental trip for me, because I realized what kind of environment I was living back at home here, and realized things have to change now. Like my mindset had to change, everything about finances, environment, the way I was eating and sleeping, my health, like everything was in that moment. But it takes a really special person and a really, really good friend will say what my friend said. And he was just like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's your environment. And it takes a really, really bold person to say that in your life. So when I did come back, I had this new profound way of wanting to do research, and I was like, I need to take this writing seriously, and I need to do it now. And then I realized now, and when I mentioned this podcast to my friend, he was like, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so, you were underselling yourself. And he was right. Again, it takes a very special person to do that, but and I see the beauty in it now, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity. For me, that was the biggest life changer. So when I got back, I was like paying off debt. I was just reimagining myself. I was still, but a lot to work on, obviously, yes. And now I'm so now when there's like a challenge or an opportunity, I'm not like stressed about it. It's like, okay, let me see if this is going to work in my favor, and trust me, if you would have met me 5 years ago, I was very stressed out. So this is really great. And but that's the beauty of like even traveling, going anywhere. Like I've gotten lost in a couple of countries, but it helps you figure yourself out, and it forces you to put yourself out there and learn something about yourself. So, but that was the biggest thing for
Mm.
me, and to take my writing seriously, because that's what he was promoting me as this writer, and I didn't have the best platform. It was still the blog spot, whatever. It wasn't the legitimate professional website it is today. So
Mm.
being able to see yourself on the other side, like I can now see my future, and it looks amazing. I wasn't able to do that before.
That's a great question. Thanks, Brenda.
Yeah, thank you.
That's actually again Jim Rohn. Coming back to Jim Rohn, he stated, um, "We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with."
Yeah.
So if you're surrounded by writers, for example, you'll be talking about writing. If you're surrounded by potheads that smoke pot all day, me, like back in the day, that's all I was doing. I was like hanging out in bars. We get drunk. If you hang out with successful people and go-getters, entrepreneurs, business owners, millionaires or billionaires, that's eventually what you're gonna, that's basically where you're gonna be drawn to. So if you're just gonna be hanging out with negative people, that's where you're gonna go. That's where your focus goes. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, I think.
Yeah.
No, your focus flows. Your energy, something like that. Anyways, any more questions, guys, for Abby and for myself? For if anybody wants to know, I'm fine, thanks. Pedrinho, thank you so much for today, man.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you,
thank
guys.
you. I love the poster. It's amazing.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you.
Isn't it great?
And like I told you, it's easy with such a beautiful picture. So
Taylor gives her thanks. She really my friend.
amazing, yeah, amazing picture. Yeah,
job. Yes.
and you're really photogenic.
Oh, thank you.
No.
Thank you
really.
very much.
Yeah. If anybody wants to use Pedrinho's skilled, artistic, impactful services, please do not hesitate to get in contact with him.
Oh wait, it's this way.
All right. He's on your side, that way.
There we go.
Thanks, man. So appreciate.
Yeah, thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank you.
Any more questions, guys? We're going to wrap this one up. Abby, let's do another one soon. I think it was really good.
Yeah.
Please. Was
we got-
amazing.
We got a lot of topics covered, including me falling asleep while watching out of a window.
We got 1,000 quotes to get out from this conversation. Amazing.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Lisa says true story, probably to the me falling asleep by the window.
No, this was amazing. Thank you so much for having me, both of you. I was looking forward to this, and I'm so happy to be here. So,
Thank you, Abby.
yes.
The very last thing,
Mhm.
a daily act of kindness. We just introduced that the other day, 3 episodes ago.
Okay.
Daily act of kindness. Recommend us a daily act of kindness, please.
Oh my God.
Something that you're like, yeah, I really like that.
I don't know if you want me that. I've really kind of just smiling at people, and just, even if you're like, this person's really stupid, or like they're just getting upset about something really mundane, or having an adult tantrum, just taking that little inner breath and being just smiling and kind of listening to them, because it's really not about whatever they're angry about. It's not you, it's not their food, it's not whatever they're upset about. It's whatever it's got going on in their life. And I'm slowly learning that just kind of listening to them and just trying to and then they're okay, like, because you listen to them. So I'm not saying you have to sit down and have coffee with these people, but just a good smile and say, like, even if you don't want to listen to people and they're just going on, you're sitting in line or whatever, just be like, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry you're going through that or whatever. And you just go about your business. And people think you're like an amazing, like super sweet person, but really I'm like, I really just want you to shut up. But, what I've discovered is that, like, I'm a lot more like personal with people because I just started doing that, and people like a good smile, even, I know it's creepy in some cultures, but, like, just smile. You don't have to, like, shake hands, but I think that would be, so just smile at somebody today, and, it's contagious. So as long as it's not in a bathroom.
Right. While licking your lips, like, what? What the fuck? Hey, awesome. Thank you so much. That's a great one. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Thanks everybody for being here today. Do not forget to check out on your podcast platforms, Coffee with Tea podcast. And this will be audible, obviously, on those platforms as well.
Awesome.
And Pedrinho, thank you for today. Coffee with
guys.
Tea, Abby Duran, Vera Nation. Hey, see y'all next week. I don't have anybody in yet for next week. I'm actually flying off to Spain for a week, taking a break. So I'm not sure yet what we're going to do on that one. We'll see. We'll figure it out. I might just go live with a picture of me laying by a pool for an hour, not saying anything. I might do that. I don't know. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. The Power of Writing with Abby Duran. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Stick around, Abby.